Hi. Before I get into the solution which eFarm has been working on and the proposal, I want to talk a little bit about the agriculture industry per se in India and also a lot of the crisis which the farmers are facing. The minute someone says agriculture, the first thing which pops up in everybody's mind is farmer suicides, farmers throwing the stuff onto the roads, clashes between farmers and urban people, land grabbing, and it's always a very negative sentiment towards agriculture. So whether it's the economist who's looking at it or the politicians who are looking at it, agri sector is always seen as a philanthropic sector or a do-good kind of sector. Everybody knows it's a problem area. Everybody knows farmers have to be tended to, but usually they are kept at a distance. Yes, there are a lot of issues related to monsoon, related to floods, related to droughts. And there's always this clash between organic and inorganic kind of industry. But let's take a few steps away and start looking at it more from a very perspective of what a farmer really goes through and what exactly he wants. So if you really see, agriculture is a 10,000-year-old industry. And if some of you remember your history books, right from Mohenjo-daro, Harappa civilization, India has been one of the champions in the agri sector. Trade and export to other countries, especially in China and Europe, has been going on for more than 500-600 years. And you still even hear of a lot of temples in other countries and a lot of trade which has happened between the Indian kings and the traders with other countries for a long time. Incidentally, even America was discovered by accident because Columbus wanted to come to India to trade in spices. So it's that old. But the funny thing is, we seem to have lost all of that tradition, lost all of that glory. And today it's very strange that we are finding that our own farmers have lost a lot of the traditional techniques in trying to grow, and we are increasingly importing a lot of our food. So what interested me personally in this sector is whenever you open the papers, whenever you open the TV, there was always something about the problem, something about supply chain or marketing. So from a farmer's perspective, first of all, a farmer does not need money. It may hit a lot of people that a farmer is poor and just give him money and let him find his own way. But a lot of the time, money is not the issue. Let me point out a very small thing which is missing your point. The land price of a lot of across India has shot up quite dramatically in the last 5 to 10 years. An acre of land, typically when you say a small farmer in India or a marginal farmer, the minimum they have is at least 1 to 2 acres. An acre of land is worth at least 25 to 30 lakhs anywhere close to the city or any town, and if it's close to a highway or any of the booming metropolis areas, it can touch easily 1 crore. Whereas economically, a farmer growing in that same piece of 1 acre cannot get more than say 50,000 rupees a year. So for a farmer, it's a fantastic exit option because this kind of money he has never seen. So there is no motivation from the farmer side to actually do farming today. This is another thing which will hit a lot of people because you're dealing with a sector which has for a long time has been ignored. So there was no choice for them. So they kept on doing the same thing. But today they have an interesting choice that by selling their land, they get a lot of money, they can educate their children, they can send their kids to the city, they can get better medical aid and all that. So a lot of these social ventures and ideas which have been talked about in the last few years turns completely upside down because suddenly a poor farmer has 1 crore of money in his hand. So these are some things which economists and socialists also need to start looking at because you can't keep on saying he's a poor farmer. You need to really start seeing, is there value in a villager or a farmer doing farming anymore? The answer is economically it is not viable anymore and other options are beginning to emerge. So second major reason is, second major critical factor which we saw in the agri industry is a lot of the emphasis in the last several years or decades have always been only in the cultivation side. How to grow your food, how to increase your yield. Whether you want to use chemicals or non-chemicals or organic, most of the emphasis has only been in the growing. Very little emphasis has been done on what happens after you harvest. How do you take it to the cities? How do you take it to your customers? Who is the customer? So first of all, there is no data at all about this industry. It's kind of shocking because most of the data which we saw was based on census data, which is taken once in 10 years, and data is projected, and most of the agricultural land is not properly kept tabs of. And second, like, farmers also constantly keep changing their crop patterns. Unless it is dynamic, there is no point in keeping these kind of static data. So most of the decisions which are taken by the government or by any of the institutions is based on very, very static data. And even today, the prices which is fixed in the mandi is based on the arrivals happening on the mandi on that particular day. Nobody knows how many trucks of tomatoes or potatoes are going to come to the mandi that particular day. So everything is a guesswork, which is the second reason why there is so much of fluctuations in pricing and availability in the Indian market. Third, the Indian farmers, even though they are producing fantastic quality, they have not got any marketing support as such. So the constant pain factor which they keep on coming up in every meeting and every forum is, we need marketing support. And that is one thing which everybody quietly shuts off, because when you talk about marketing, starting from simple concepts like a weighing machine, most of the farmers do not have weighing machine. It has never been a concept at all. Most of the time they take this produce to a mandi or to a middleman who actually has a weighing machine, which is very strange, because if you have a small grocery store, you don't expect the customer to bring a weighing machine, or you don't send the rice or sugar to the customer's home and have them measure it in their kitchen scale and take that rating as your weights. It is never done, and no other industry it is done. But here 99% of the agri industry or farmers actually have their products weighed by the middlemen, not by themselves. And interestingly, there are so much of aid and so much of grants which have been given, and so many freebies are being thrown at the farmers. One of the things which really beats me is, why didn't anybody just give them a weighing machine so that they can start measuring their products? Second is, there is no standardization at all. Even though we have been doing farming for 10,000 years, a bag, typically if you ask a farmer, what is your yield and things like that, they usually keep talking in bags. I get 1,000 bags of rice, I get 50 bags, or I get 5 handfuls of spinach. The thing is, these keep varying with time, because if you get a good harvest, the same bag would weigh 70 kgs. If you get a bad harvest, the bag could go down to 40 to 50 kg, and this is between the trader and the farmer. This has been happening back and forth for a long time. So when you bring in professional buyers, like, this is one reason why a lot of the modern retailers could not make much dent in this segment, because the minute they started procuring, they realized that there is a lot of variation. Even with the same farmer, if he's sending 10 bags, each bag has a different weight. So your end customer is talking in metric units like kgs and tons, whereas the farmer who is producing is not talking the same language at all. And nobody has even got into this segment of trying to standardize what is one bag of onion, what is one bag of potatoes. There is no standard. From district to district, to state, there is a lot of variation. Third, it comes to quality. So when it comes to quality, we don't need export quality. We just need basic things like, is it large, medium, or small? To this day, there is no standard quality in terms of when you take a bag of onion, the same bag has very, very large pieces, medium pieces, extremely tiny pieces, and totally rotten pieces as well. And this is a standard story across India. So farmers also have been doing this mixed grade of things because of issues of pricing and issues with trading. But this is beginning to hit them reversely, because the professional buyers are no longer able to deal with them, because when they open up a bag, almost 10 to 15% is rotten, and another 20% is really not the size which they actually want. So even simple grading has not been standardized in India and across any of the mandis, and it's quite pathetic to look at it. The next point, which is most significant, is farmers do not know how to set their own prices. In any industry, you expect the manufacturer to actually arrive at the cost of production, set a certain margin for himself, set a certain margin for the distributor, and start saying what should be the maximum retail price, and work backwards to make sure that there is a certain amount of profitability involved and everywhere. But farmer being mostly not educated, most of the farmers in India are not educated. Most of them are on an average about 55 to 60 years old. So you're talking about a very old person who's never been to school. So he is not able to do even basic math to start looking at what is the cost he's putting in, what is the expense he's putting into his product. So because of that, he has to depend upon the mandi or the government to set his price. So usually they'll keep on saying, I'm not getting a good price. The minute you ask any farmer growing anything, okay, you tell me what should be the correct price for tomato, what should be the correct price for brinjal, they're usually stumped because they do not have a price, or they may be quoting a price which they got last Diwali or last Pongal or something on a very jackpot kind of day, and that kind of sets in their mind. Or sometimes somebody gives them a big advance in their hand and they think that, oh, I should get 1 lakh for my stuff. But if you work out the costing, it might not be anything profitable at all. So a lot of the exercise we've been doing with farmers is to first arrive at a cost of production and trying to start arriving at least the basic minimum price which they should be getting, and the farmer should be determining it. Why? Because the biggest expense for a farmer today is not seeds, it is not water, it is not electricity, it is labor. Because we have done these calculations for every major crop, and I can pretty much tell you that 60 to 70% of the cost of production of any crop today is actually the labor cost, because labor costs have shot up like anything, because they used to be 30-40 rupees a day, and now it is almost 500 rupees a day, because most of the non-farm laborers have come to the city. They have alternative jobs. They are comparing themselves against the industrial jobs or factories and construction industry, which is giving them very high salary. So now they're expecting the same amount of salary in the village. If not, they have choice. So once again, I know there's a lot of this noise about NREGA and all that. It's not NREGA because the laborers now have a choice which earlier they did not. So what has happened is, other than the farmer, there is actually nobody in the village to do any agriculture. So that has further shrunk. So even if a farmer has 5 or 6 acres, since there are no laborers to help him during the harvest cycle, he is doing less and less cultivation. So if you see the prices which are going up and inflation which is happening up, you don't need a great economist or a Nobel laureate to tell you, because the supply is shrinking and it is only going to get worse. So this is what we are seeing even since we started about 5 years ago, the kind of situation we are seeing today, because of these combined factors of land price going up, less laborer and less motivation of the farmer. We see that the crisis is only going to get worse, and unfortunately most urban people are not aware of it. They are still having a very philosophical aspect towards the whole thing. They are not realizing how badly it's hitting them. The issue which eFarm is trying to fight is not exactly about saving the farmer. It is now shifting very drastically that we are trying to save you, the person who is sitting in front of this computer, who is educated, who is literate. You are the person who does not know how to grow your own food, is dependent on outside food, and whatever be the price, whatever be the quality, you have to get it. So you are the person who really needs help today, and reducing the costs at the consumer level and getting better quality. A lot of it depends upon increasing the supply and making sure whatever is available with very little wastage reaches the end consumer. So that, in summary, is what we are seeing today. This is July 2013, and we are almost seeing it like a burning fire. Okay, I know that there's a saying which says, angels fear where fools tread. Okay, so while a lot of the farmers are running away from the villages, and people, traditionally bankers who have been working in the village sector, are no longer touching it, a lot more people who are unaware of the real problems are rushing inside into the sector. So yes, we do appreciate that change. We appreciate that churn which is happening, and we need more youngsters and professionals to come into the sector. But the only thing is, be a little bit more aware of what is happening. Okay, a village is no longer like a Maniratna movie or a Bharadaraja movie. It is the situation in village is changing very drastically, and even very recently there was a report by National NSSO which says like the urban poverty is far worse than the rural poverty, because in rural areas people have land and they are much more healthier, so they don't spend that much. So things are turning upside down, even for us personally. So we expect people watching this video to first take a little back step, take away the media fuzz and buzz, and start actually visiting a village. Most people who come up with these grand plans of changing a farmer's life and all, most of the people have not even visited a village and actually stayed there for some time. Get a feel of it, get a feel of the real problems and challenges, and then come up with solutions would be a better approach. So that, in summary, is very brief. What is a crisis, and what are the real situations which is going on in village, and make your own decisions. I would expect you to actually not even follow what I am telling. Actually go to a nearby village or any of your towns which you're familiar with. Actually go and spend at least a weekend there, talk to people and understand what the challenge they're facing through before you come up with any solutions. Thank you.